Hey guys, I'm up here on the roof today. We're putting in a mini split, and one of the questions I get all the time is proper vacuuming procedure. So I'm gonna go over today just the proper vacuuming procedure of a mini split machine, and we're also going to pressurize it with nitrogen before we do that. So I'm gonna show you the proper steps to get by that. So right now we've got our gauges hooked to the machine, and you can hook it to either line. If you got 2 fittings and 4 ports on your gauges, you can hook it to both lines if you have 2 ports. Some machines have 2, some have 1. I've got my yellow line hooked to my nitrogen tank. I've got it laid to the side just because this roof's not flat, it's foam roof and it wants to roll around. So those of y'all is wondering about that, that's why. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pressurize this thing with nitrogen, and we're going to fill it up. And there's not an exact amount of nitrogen you got to put in it. 200, 250, 350, anywhere in that range. The biggest thing you want to see is that it holds that amount, whatever you put in there. So right now we're at 360, and it's got to go through both lines and the indoor machine. So whenever you do it, just make sure you find you a good number and try to keep it there. So I'm gonna work on 400 here. All right, 403. Let's let it settle. And what we're going to do is you just find your number and you just let it sit. And again, this is I just got hooked to my adapter, and then we're going to let it sit for like 15 minutes, and we'll come back to it. And next step, we'll after it holds pressure, we'll hook the vacuum pump up to it, and I'll show you that procedure. Okay, so we're going to give it 15 minutes now, or 10 minutes, and we'll see what pressures do, and I'll show you how to do that. So now just sit and wait. All right, we're back at it, and you'll see it bounces around a little bit as the temperature moves, but it's still holding the same. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut my tank off. Cut your tank off. Valves closed. That's closed. We'll remove the yellow line, and now I'm just going to start bleeding all that nitrogen off. So I'm going to open this, and I'm going to bleed this nitrogen off the system. And it's pretty important. You see how long it's taken? If some reason you open that hose up and it only takes a split second, what I've seen in the past is these fittings here, especially if you have a new fitting. If they're a new fitting, the rubbers are new, then they don't depress the valve core in here. And if that valve core don't depress, you're not getting nitrogen through here. It's only pressurizing from here back. So anytime you do a vacuum or anything and it just takes a short time, and hey, it's tight, and you know it only took 10 seconds to do, that's the reason. Check your fitting, especially if you have a new fitting. You have to tighten it up where that valve core can fit. So anyway, we're about out, and my next step, I gotta get the extension cord up here, but my next step is and you can see I always, regardless whether I hold a long time and no problem or not, I still take the soap bubbles, any type of soap, thick soap, put around all my fittings, even my fittings and my gauges. So anyway, I'm gonna get some power up here, then we're going to proceed with the vacuum. So I'll show you that part next. All right guys, I got my vacuum pump hooked up, and it's connected to my yellow hose. I've got it turned on, valve on my line's on. I've got this on. It's pumped down into 29 inches of mercury now. Hadn't got deep enough for my microns to start. Mine has a built-in micron gauge, some, if you got regular set of gauges, you might have to have a separate micron gauge. But I'm waiting for the microns to get down around 500 microns, and I know we're in a deep vacuum, and I know all non-condensables are out. I've got a blue hose. You can use blue or red. Mine, it really don't matter as long as I know what pressures I'm reading. So I got my blue hose hooked to my service port. Service port is open, and now we're sucking from this point back to the whole air handler, back to this point here. So we're going to allow it to suck for a while, and you'll hear the actual vacuum pump as it gets down into a deeper vacuum. You'll hear it actually get lower and lower and quieter, and as this vacuum falls, we'll start reading microns. And now here we go. Now it's going to start reading microns. Before it was infinity because we wasn't in that deep of vacuum. So right now it's starting to fall, and I'm gonna give it about 30 minutes and we'll come back to it, and I'll show you what we're falling to. And as time progresses, it'll just keep dropping and dropping and dropping. Once I get down to around 500 microns, I know there's no non-condensables or moisture left in the system. All right, guys, you can hear how quiet it is now, and we're down to 349. So she's holding, and matter of fact, the valves is off, so we can go ahead and just shut that off. And we'll come over here to the service valves. And one thing about the service valves you need to remember is try to always open the largest one first. Reason being is the flow of refrigerant, the TXV valves in this one. So you want the flow of the refrigerant to come through here and not all through your TXV valve at one time. So now we're going to open, I said we're going to open it as soon as I find the right Allen wrench. It's a metric. Do this with one hand here. There we go. We're going to open the valves up. Largest one first. And open it all the way. Don't crack it. And it's got to stop. You'll feel it when it hits the stop. Right there. And the next one. Let it get to the stop, and that's it. Another important thing is whenever you put these on, don't use any Teflon. Teflon will get in the system and destroy it. The flare seals, not the threads. So snug these down, and that's it. You're ready to fire it up.